Hello and welcome. In this video, I will be introducing you to JavaScript functions. Functions are a way of packaging functionality that you wish to reuse. So a function basically can refer to a block or a piece of code that is designed to perform a particular task. A JavaScript function is executed when something invokes it. By invoke, I mean calls it. So in order to activate a function after it has been created, you need to invoke it or call it. And usually you do that by its name. JavaScript has many built-in functions that you can use. A very popular one is the alert, which enables you to create pop-up box messages. JavaScript also enables you to create your own functions. And the way you create your own functions in JavaScript is by using the function keyword. Functions often takes arguments. Arguments are bits of data that the functions need in order to perform or do their jobs. And these arguments are placed inside parentheses, which are separated by commas if there are more than one argument. So inside my console, I have created a function. And the way you create a function, you basically have to type in the keyword function followed by the name you want to call the function. When you're creating function, it's very nice to name your functions as closely as possible to the task that the function is meant to perform. See, my function, I've called it add num, which indicates that this function is going to be used to add numbers together. So when you create a function, you first of all have to type in the word function followed by a space, then the name of the function, and then you have to have parentheses. Sometimes the parentheses can be empty, but you must have that in order to create a function. And then if you've got any arguments, you pass that argument inside the parentheses. If there's more than one argument, you separate them by a comma. You can see here num1 is an argument, num2 is referred to as an argument. And once you specify the arguments, if there are any, inside the parentheses, and then you have this curly braces. You've got the opening curly braces here and the closing curly braces. And inside, in between the curly braces, is the block of code that has to be executed when the function is invoked or called. Notice here I've also got a return statement here. Basically, the return statement tells the browser to return the result variable out of the function, so it is available to use. All right, this is necessary because variables defined inside functions are only available inside those functions. This is called variable scope. So when you create a variables can be available throughout the application or throughout the scope, which is known as global. So if you create a variable and you declare it outside the function, that makes that variable global. That means you can use it anywhere within the block of code. But if you define a variable inside a function like I've done here, I've defined a variable called result, and I've set that variable result to equals to whatever value is passed as number 1 and added to value passed as number 2. So this variable is local to this function, so it can only be accessed inside this function. So when a variable exists inside a function, once the function has been executed, the variable basically is destroyed, or it becomes on you. You can't use it again. Once the function has been called, that's it. It served its purpose. However, if you want the variable to be available, you have to use the return statement. That way it will tell the browser to return the result of the variable out of the function so that it is available to use. You only do this for variables defined inside the function. They are known as a local variable scope. So variables defined outside the function are global, so you can access them from anywhere within the JavaScript code, whereas variables defined inside a function, like I have done here, are referred to as a local scope variable. So here I have defined this variable called addNum. Now to make or to invoke this function, now that I've created it, all I need to do is call the function by its name, which is addNum, and then you must add the parentheses, and then I'm going to pass it two values because I've got two arguments there. So if I say 10, 20 and I close the parentheses and I press enter, that will add 10 and 20 together and give me 30. All right, so anytime I want to use this function, all I need to do is call the function by its name and then pass in two arguments. You can see it saves me having to rewrite the function again. I've already written it, defined it. All I need to do is just call it and pass in whatever arguments I need for the function. So for example, you can create the same thing maybe for multiplication or anything. This is just a basic illustration to show you the importance of functions. So you can create functions for different kind of tasks or to do different things. But once you've created a function, you don't have to write all the code again. All you need to do is just call the function by its name and pass in whatever arguments you need to do, like I've passed in here. And then, the function executes. If I want to pass in more arguments, I just call the function by its name and I'll pass in, say, I'll do 6 and 6, and that will add 6 and 6 together. It will return 12 because I've already written all the functions here. So all I need to do is call it by its name and pass in the argument. So that's basically how you create and use a function. Functions, a very powerful concept in JavaScript. I've only, barely scratched the surface here. This is just an introduction to JavaScript function. There's a lot more to it. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching and bye for now.